Hi, Suresh.
Hi Suresh, we are not able to hear you.
You're on mute.
Now?
Yes,
Yeah,
clear.
please change your background image.
One second. I already did it. I don't know why.
We'll begin in 3 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
yeah,
Yes.
we can see you.
Okay.
So
So
for
we'll
now,
start in.
we'll start in 2 minutes. For now, you can switch off your video. Once I start your introduction and introduce you as a panelist, as a speaker, that's when you can switch on your video.
Sure.
Open your presentation one in the
Yeah,
background. Yeah,
just keep your presentation in a PowerPoint presentation mode and keep it ready. So once you're live and ready to share, that's when you can share that window where the presentation is in the presentation mode.
I'm planning to share the entire screen so that I can show the video at the end too.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
As long as you're okay.
So that's fine.
A minute left.
Mhm.
yeah, we can start. You can start now. 3, 2, 1, go.
A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Imran. I'm the CEO and founder for the conference and exhibition company Confexco. A very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us today and who's watching us at a later stage. This recording of Digital Transformation Live, a webinar part of a series of events under business transformation and operational excellence. Today, we are here to talk about digital transformation and what best to use this platform, a virtual platform, to explain more in how digital transformation has evolved, what are the new techniques that will be used, how can organizations use technology to excel, to grow, and to transform their business from legacy systems to modern systems to data analytics to understanding AI. We will touch on some of key points today, and to cover those points, we have two expert speakers as part of our today's panel who will be sharing their expert views and talking about two very unique topics that will give you an idea of digital transformation in the real world. Let me give you a little overview of digital transformation. I'm sure heard this when you went on a virtual call. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me now? Is this fine? I can't hear you. This is technology for us, which is normal. It happens. Technology is here to make our life easy, but at times it really makes us ask questions. This is exactly what we want to bring through our events. We want everyone to ask questions. We want to be as human as possible. Technology cannot work without us asking questions. So use this platform to ask as many questions as possible. Our speakers are here live to answer those questions. and they will be available after the event through our LinkedIn and social media channels to continue the conversation based on their presentation and their experience and expertise. First speaker for the day is Mr. Suresh Bysani, who is from Eightfold, a company which creates a unique platform for HR transformation. Suresh is a director of engineering who has been working on conversational analytics. He's been creating unique platform for HR leaders and organizations simultaneously and giving them an idea of narrowing down the process of talent management. It is a very unique platform. He serves as a core or as a brain behind the technology. His mission with Eightfold is to forge a path in talent management that is not only meeting but anticipating customer needs. The health checking components that he has designed is a testament to their commitment to reliability, and they're pioneering seamless talent data management pipelines that redefine distributed systems, all while maintaining an unwavering dedication to the client's operational success. Please join me in welcoming Suresh. Suresh, can we have you on stage, and we will start your presentation to the audience. Let me give you an idea for the audience who is listening to us here. Keep an eye on the presentation that Suresh has made. Where we had a small call recently, and Suresh was kind enough to show us an overview of what it means to create the tech stack for analytics and for creating the right technology-based solution for conversational analytics. So over to you, Suresh. Please go ahead and start the webinar, and I'll leave the audience in your expert hands.
Sure. Thanks for the nice introduction. Good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm Suresh. So today, what I want to do is I want to help you guys understand, in general, what Eightfold does in the HR space. And for the majority of the time, I want to, talk about a particular use case called conversational analytics, which is very common in the modern industry, right? You can see everybody is trying to build an agentic application. So we'll talk about how conversational analytics is built, thought of in general, and we'll tie things together on, how analytics systems have evolved over time. So a little bit about me. I'm the director of engineering. I manage core infrastructure, SaaS infrastructure, and the AI infrastructure at Eightfold. So I manage pretty much everything that is not product. So you can think of all the middleware which is needed for the product teams to simply write their business logic. Our team provides that, whether it is SaaS infrastructure, AI infrastructure, or search layer, middleware layers, anything for that matter, right? For example, let's say there are things like I want to search a candidate, given a candidate ID, we give that platform. So a little bit about Eightfold in general, right? There's a lot of companies in the talent space, but what we did not realize is the last known company in the talent space which did a lot of innovation is Workday, which is like 20 years old. Ironically, in most of the spaces, there are a lot of startups, and in HR and people space, yes, there are companies, but there were very few companies who were path breaking. So Eightfold aims at giving a modern touch to HR and people space. To give a simple example of what Eightfold is doing, our first problem was ATS/talent intelligence, right? We are all familiar with application tracking systems, and I call this a dumb repository of resumes, right? So candidates apply. We have a nice recruiter portal for recruiters to slice and dice the candidates. And most of the time, most of these platforms offer what is called as syntactic search. let's say you're hiring a software engineer. I'm taking a very simple example. And let's say we're trying to hire somebody who is expert in, say, Java. I'm just taking a very simple example so that everybody can, relate with. What used to happen in the ATS world is you receive a bunch of resumes from the world, and you also have a repository of resumes that you have gotten because of your previous job postings, etc. And there's public data which people buy. So what recruiters used to do is they used to do keyword based searching called give me a candidate who went to decent schools and who has Java in their resume, and let me get the results, and we'll get thousands, if not 100,000 results, because there are enough number of people in the world who went to good schools and who understand Java, right? And the recruiter will continue to add more such filters, not in the hope of finding a better candidate, but to reduce the search space. Because after this point, whatever filters they are applying, they are only applying to reduce the search space. But we felt a lot of good candidates are being ignored. That's point number one. And the other point is the we when we talk to a lot of industries, they're spending a lot of money on recruiting. For example, some of the internal statistics that we have say that people in general interview 60 to 70 people in order to close a rec. Of course, there are several rounds of interview. Not all 60 will go to the last round of interview. That is understandable, but still, it is enormous amount of time spent to close a rec. And depending upon the companies or the job descriptions, people also fly all of these guys to their headquarters, give them accommodations, give them an office tour, and do a lot of things before we close these candidates. And not to forget the amount of time the actual employees have to spend time interviewing, recruiting. So cumulatively this cost will bubble up very easily. Uh, so the talent intelligence platform at Eightfold, what it does is it gives you a magical way of screening candidates, right? Imagine you have a position open and the hiring manager directly opens the position. Imagine there is a magical platform that tells you that these are the 10 people or these are the 5 people that you should interview, and you have a 90% chance of closing them, right? Remember, let's say there's a company X. There is always an intention for this company X to hire the best talent in the world. Let's say they need candidates from Stanfords of the world, right? There's very low probability that this person will end up joining this company if the company reputation is not good enough or great enough, right, for the other candidates. So it's a bi-directional transaction. So depending upon the previous hires, previous kind of people that are in the company, it is also important to source the people who have very high probability of considering the place X as their greatest choice, right? So Eightfold has a deep learning model which kinds of trains on millions of parameters, right? To make sure that they arrive at this top 5, top 10 candidates for recruiters to just go after. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of magic here, right? It's very easy to have a claim like this. So that is why our sales cycles are, reasonably high. We kind of, uh, ask the customers to feel this for themselves, right? So the customers, when they buy Eightfold, they look at our product, they see how Eightfold is making their recruitment life much easier in various forms, right? We have a lot of powerful metrics and dashboards which is telling them how recruitment is improving over time, right? It's not just the number of people you close per month, right? That is just a throughput metric. It is also about the quality of people you are getting. So we have to measure how fast you're able to hire. At the same time, we should also measure what is the kind of quality of people that we are getting compared to a traditional application and tracking system. So we kind of capture all these metrics, and they are available readily in the platform. And Once customers understand and see the value of how it is increasing the recruiter effectiveness, they buy the product. And Eightfold didn't stop there. So that's the first entry point for us, right? We are now trying to solve everything people. Now we have a second product called talent management. This is once the employee joins in the company, what will the employee do? How can he find mentors? How can he find internal jobs? How can he do various courses to upskill himself? Everything that is part of employee journey in the company. How can we drive it with AI as opposed to traditional workflow driven management, right? Imagine, there's a continuous system that is running in the backend, which is popping you, oh yeah, this is the course that you should do, this is the kind of people that you should interact with. Let's say the candidate can set a preference saying that in 10 years I want to become, say, senior manager of engineering, right? So it will then start understanding your intentions, and it will suggest things on, it will suggest slash recommend what are the list of things you should be doing, who are the mentors that you should be having, and try to interact with them, etc., 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 right? So that
Suresh,
is where.
Suresh, we are still on the first slide. Just wanted to check if you're able to move the slides.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
great. Okay, okay.
yeah. So that in general, is the summary of Eightfold, and I help, manage infrastructure for making all of this possible. As you guys can see, we are not just B2B, we are B2B2C as well, because we support end user career pages. So a particular example or use case that I want to, walk you through today is analytics, how it evolved over time, and what is agentic infrastructure, and how is conversational analytics being thought of. So for the next 10 minutes, let's talk about how analytics evolved over time. The reason this topic is important is once we have AI platforms which claim that they can solve great problems like this, it's important to have a very powerful analytics platform as part of your product where end users can ask very meaningful and powerful questions, and we should be able to answer them, right? Either in a conversational way or in a dashboarding way. Okay, so I'll take you to a small through a small technical tour. I'll keep it as brief as I can, but please feel free to stop me whenever you guys want. So traditionally, we all know there are OLTP systems and OLAP systems, right? I will summarize by saying that if you have a web application, the database that is directly powering your web application is called an OLTP system. It's made for it. It's usually for transactions. It's very high-speed databases. All the Postgres, MySQLs, MongoDBs of the world that you hear, right? They're all databases that directly power your website. On the other hand, OLAP is back office. All the data warehouses that you see, whether they are Teradata, Redshift, Snowflakes, BigQuery, anything that you heard of in general, they are all back office databases. They are used by business analysts to create reports for internal product managers and leaderships as stakeholders. So these are the general examples. And for OLAP systems, as we talked about, these are the general examples. Naturally, there's a data is fuel. This is a cliche term now. I'm going to use it again. If you just did, I just did a simple Google search, and I can see that the amount of data or money that is being spent on data warehousing solutions is rapidly increasing. This is just compounded annual growth, right? Amazing amount of money is being spent on data warehouses naturally, because every company wants to store every data, every clickstream data they have in data warehouse, so that they can analyze and identify what are the right areas to invest. We talked about why companies need OLAP, mainly for business analysis. So how do we get this data in the data warehouse? So we know that all our website data is powered by powerful databases like Postgres and MongoDBs of the world. but how is it obtained in data warehouse? So I'm sure everybody heard of this word called ETL, ELT at some parts of your career, right? Where the idea is you transfer all the data from your primary databases to what is called as data warehouse, and this ETL process will help you do that. This is how the first generational platform looked like. So there were on the bottom, you can see the large data, the OLTP systems like Postgres. Here you have systems like Redshift and Snowflakes of the world. And these ETL processes take the data from your structured databases to data warehouses, which are also structured, by the way. And your internal business analysts and product managers, they use BI tools like Tableau, Power BI, QuickSight, you name it, right? On top of these data warehouses, and they create powerful dashboards for data analysis. As you can see, there's a problem here because it made the business analyst life easy, but it made the machine learning engineers and data scientists life harder because data warehouse comes with fixed schema. They are like your tables in database, right? They cannot answer fancy queries as unstructured data would do. So we basically need a database which can store unstructured data. So second generation architectures look something like this, where you then introduce something called data lake. This is where the big data of the world became famous, where Hadoop was overtaking the world, where they said Hadoop or any other data lake is just unstructured in nature. So all the data is just going to land on top of your data lake, and there's no fixed schema. The schema is on the read, and you can dump pretty much any unstructured data on top of this data lake. And Hadoop was beautifully scaling. The data science and machine learning teams started becoming happy because now they have all the data they need. They don't have to worry about querying a fixed table. They can pretty much query anything and create complex models for the company. But the BI team started complaining because most of the tools like Tableaus and Power BIs, they need fixed schema. They cannot operate with unstructured data. So in order to make both of these lives happy, there's a second step that we did to move this data from data lake to Teradata's and Snowflakes of the world, right? So obviously this imposes a huge problem. Now the data is present in two places, one in data warehouse and one in data lake. And anybody who worked in data engineering or led data engineering teams in the past would echo with me that having multiple copies of data is bad, and we'll very soon have continuous, and not to mention the capital expenditure and operational expenditure for all of this, right? So it became out of hands after some point. So there was a lot of talk on how to consolidate both of these worlds. Will there be a magical platform which can support querying both unstructured data and structured data, right? And that is the third generation, which is Lakehouse. So every modern data warehouse company, whether it is Databricks, Snowflake, anybody you talk to, they have rebranded themselves as Lakehouse platform for the very same reason. So their selling point is you can dump the data in what is called as a data lake, which is very similar to the previous world, and you have a very powerful metadata layer which lets you power any use case, whether it is a BI tool or a machine learning use case. Bring it on. So our data lake can support. And one thing that happened in this world is Hadoop got replaced by S3. I mean, even today, there is enough presence of Hadoop in large enterprise companies, but S3 kind of took over as a durable storage. AWS has, invested and made S3 a very powerful platform. And whatever goodness Hadoop was offering in terms of durably storing the data, S3 was doing it at a much, cheaper infrastructure price, and people have standardized on S3, and that's the world. And again, to summarize, the world has seen a transformation from a simple data warehouse to what is called as lakehouse. which is powering a lot of modern use cases within an organization. But the story did not stop there. What happened after this is customers started becoming very demanding. Until now, if you see, we have always talked about the world where I am trying to consolidate the use cases within the company. I have my BI analysts who are inside the company. I have my machine learning scientists who are inside the company. They need a powerful platform to slice and dice the data to provide value to the company. There's no direct interaction of customer with either this lakehouse platforms or data warehouse platforms until now. But customers wanted to see some analytics within the product. So a classic example is this LinkedIn page, right? If you see how LinkedIn has evolved over time, recently it started showing analytics directly on the homepage. It's showing how many people have viewed your profile, how your last post, how many impressions it got, how many search appearances you are part of. I mean, these are direct OLAP use cases. And we just established that OLAP is a back office system and it is typically slow. It is not used for powering your web application. But as you can see, people have already broken that paradigm by having analytics in product pages. Even though it sounds intuitive, it is not very simple because OLAP systems are not designed for a very high concurrency, which is needed for end user applications. So, how did we, evolve the OLAP systems to do this? Is is a research topic by itself. But what I'm going to leave for the interest of time is we should check modern databases like Apache Pinot, Apache, Superset, Apache Star Rocks. These are all the databases and visualization technologies that is helping all of this possible. These are projects that evolved from companies like LinkedIn's of the world, where they took a traditional OLAP system and make it as performant as the traditional databases like Postgres of the world, which is making all of this possible. Now, the obvious question to all of you is, why do I care about the concurrency and why do I care about all of this, right? The problem is going to become much worse in AI world. If you see, every company now is trying to create an AI or they're trying to transform their product in an agentic way. We'll talk about what are AI agents for a few minutes, but at the end of the day, to summarize, they are trying to put Claude or GPT like platform within their product so people don't, interact with the product in a workflow-ish way, but rather they interact with the product in an agentic way. We are all used to products shipping reports and dashboards, but a lot of statistics are saying that reports and dashboards are no longer useful because company will try to give you a canned set of reports and dashboards, but every end user requirement is different. So you cannot cater to all the requirements. The most, effective way to solve all end user analytics needs is to provide them a conversational platform which can pretty much answer any question that they have in natural language, right? Obviously, you will still have pre-canned dashboards that are shipped as part of your product. Otherwise, we don't want everybody to be typing questions if they want to find simple information. That's not the idea. But anything that is beyond your standard dashboards, people should be able to simply obtain them using in a conversational way. So what that means is there are a lot of people in the product who are going to interact with us in a conversational way, which means the number of queries that are coming to your OLAP system is going to be much, much more higher than supporting a pre-canned dashboard. So that is why this is very important. This research area is very important to understand how our analytic systems evolving over time. Let's take a pause here and see what are AI agents, how are companies building them, and a small example of what does an AI agent look like, and we'll try to tie both of these things together. So agents, they are the next generation of programming. We have all used to, understanding the traditional softwares like Red Hats or Linuxes of the world. All the legacy companies that you can think of, right? They don't have a SaaS-based solution. They have a software that you release for every few months, and the software becomes LTS, and the LTS version is supported for few years, and you kind of get the game, right? That is the traditional software that got released to market. From 2010s, the SaaS era became quite famous, and everybody wants to modernize their application into SaaS. Thanks to Kubernetes and a lot of technologies that came as part of Kubernetes, people were able to rethink their software as a service, and they were able to just deploy as part of Kubernetes, and they were able to release the software on a day-to-day basis. The third generation is AI agents. So how is it different from SaaS? So this is where it becomes very controversial. Everybody have a different way of how AI agents or agentic world is going to be different. My take on this agentic world is just going to add on to your SaaS. It won't fundamentally redefine SaaS, but it will complement SaaS. The technologies that you see for infrastructure like Kubernetes, Docker, containers, all of these are going to stay. It's just that the way you interact with the system is going to be agentic as opposed to a traditional workflow based, API based software. We'll talk about what of this. I'll demystify this in a minute. So naturally, there's a lot of investment that is happening in the LLM applications. You can see that, the total funding is just compounding from 2024, and the estimates are, mind-boggling. Everybody that I talk to, right, they want to have agentic architectures within their company, whether it is a very small startup or a very large enterprise company. I'm guaranteeing you that there is an agentic project that is happening within their organization. And LLMs are the prime around all of this. And why did agentic world become famous all of a sudden, right? It is because of LLMs. Traditionally, there were very powerful machine learning algorithms and models and very strong deep learning and neural net models, right? But we did not see this wave when traditional machine learning models are at their prime. That's because in the traditional world, while you have very powerful machine learning models, it is not very easy to interact with these models in a text way. Or let me put it in a different way, right? Not everybody can use it. An average software engineer or an average product manager cannot really use this machine learning model to get what they want in life. But today, with the advent of LLMs, anybody can freely interact with this machine learning model because LLM is a text-based model. And because of this, the wave has taken up completely, and everybody is trying to modernize the way they're operating. For example, it has been so many days since I wrote a doc end to end, right? I definitely use the power of Claude. It has been so many days since I created a PPT end to end. I mean, without using Claude and GPT, right? So the prompt engineering is becoming very famous in the world of leaderships and product managers. But for developers and applications, LLMs is helping them in the world of understanding and writing business logic. I'm not talking about, put some prompt in LLM, get the code and put it in your application. No, that's not what I'm trying. I'm trying to say that as part of your application, LLM is deeply integrated. We'll take a toy example, and this will be very apparent. A traditional service, again, I'm going to technical world, just bear with me for a minute. I'll make this as clear as possible. In the traditional world, you can think of this as a microservice, the center box as a microservice. And let's say there is a simple API this microservice offers. It offers two APIs, one to add two numbers and one to reverse a input string. Very simple, right? This is how microservices were programmed until now. So if you see, there are only two APIs called addition API and string reverse API. The input has to be exactly in the format that microservice should understand. For example, let's say 2 plus 3 is the format this microservice understands. If you give something like, can you add 2 and 3, or can you do 2 add 3, I mean, the microservice will not understand, right? And similarly, let's say there is an input that this microservice does not understand. It doesn't know what to do and simply throws an error. The way AI agents are programmed is, you should think of something called a toolbox, where you have a bunch of tools that are just coded by your existing world. And this is the traditional world that you can think of, right? But if you see, there is a very important component called LLM here. And one could argue that majority of the time the software developer life cycle is spent in coding the brain, right? Because tools are very simple. It's not very hard to write program to add two numbers or to reverse two strings or for any other tool in the organization. I mean, what are tools, right? Read to database, write to database, given a thing, search in the database. These are things that do not change 99% of the time. What changes is product code. What changes is business logic. That's where majority of money is spent. So that's where agentic architectures are beautiful, right? You have fixed set of tools. You code 0 lines of code in business logic. You let LLM figure out how to get to the desired state. So there is this input state called 2 plus 3. There is a list of tools called add tools, string reverse tools, and LLM kinds of understands what are the list of tools that you have. You can now give the input in any format that you like. LLM will see the list of tools that you have and which tool can, really, really be used to run this job and run it to completion. And every tool have a fixed input schema that we talked about. LLM kinds of knows that because there is tool description. And once you have the input, LLM will find the right tool and it will also convert the given input to a format this tool expects, and we'll get the tool output, and LLM will decide what to do next. And basically, the LLM agentic programming will not stop until you get to the desired state. This will greatly reduce the development cycle by 10x easily, right? I mean, we have seen this firsthand within Eightfold. The same application where you write the business logic, the total amount of time that it takes, a similar application which is written with LLM, the time to market was 10x better. It's not because of copy pasting the code. It's because of this architecture, right, where you have LLM as first class citizen. So at a high level, the AI agents have brains. They can decide what to do next, and they can construct a DAG for you to run things to completion. We'll spend some time on this graph. This is very important as leaders to understand this. We are here now. This is deterministic world, and autonomous agents aim to keep the world here where they take all the decisions. What this means is, we are used to having reliable applications. Imagine you buying a product from an enterprise world, say Jira, right? And let's say your goal is to manage your sprint board or a Kanban board. When you try to do an action, or when you want to see the board, or when you move a story from one state to another, you expect the application to behave reliably. And that is the current world that we are used to. If you code all the business logic 100%, your application is going to be very reliable because you know what is going to happen because you coded the behavior. With AI, you don't control it. We just saw that AI is deciding what to do next, how to get to the desired state. So if you make everything autonomous, then it is going to be the other extreme of the graph. The application reliability will be very less. People will start saying that, oh, yesterday it behaved like this, today it behaved like this. You can see this in ChatGPT or Claude itself, right? If you ask the same question twice, the answer may not be completely same, right? It could give a different perspective. because LLMs are hallucinating. They are hallucinating models, right? The goal, for the current generation of people, the goal is to keep your life somewhere here, right? Where you need some sense of autonomy. At the same time, you need some sense of reliability. I mean, very good sense of reliability. That is why everybody is trying to keep their world here right now. So we we'll now talk about a couple of technologies which is making all of this possible, right? I mean, people can directly interact with LLMs using APIs. Open APIs and ChatGPT provide you all of that. But again, if you directly interact with them as APIs, you will have to write a lot of code, and the point is lost. So that's where over last 1 2 years there are tremendous amount of softwares that are built for developing agentic applications where you don't have to worry about writing a lot of code, and this provides a very complex abstractions on how to interact with this LLM model. The same brain example that we talked about, you can code that with a tool like LangGraph or LangChain in the matter of couple of minutes, because all of these things are included as first class citizens in LangChain and LangCore. So you can plug and play your models. It could be Claude, GPT, any other model in the future. So it is an interface way of interacting with all of this. You can store prompts. I mean, as you can see, these are long running applications. So it is not a temporary conversation. The conversation has to take has to be stored for days and months, if not years. So how do we provide a software which abstracts all of this? And that is where the current research areas are happening. And people are simply using these softwares to build agentic applications in the matter of minutes and days. So this is how you can think of your toy graph, right? So you have a bunch of tools, basic calculator, reversing a string, unique visitors. And if I don't have a tool, you can think of a world where AI can directly answer, because LLM by itself is indexed with a lot of data, so it can answer. So this is also a fallback option which people can use. Previously, this was never an option. If your input was, is something that the microservice doesn't understand, we cannot do anything about it. But now we can do a fallback saying that my LLM can directly answer. Okay, now let's zoom back a little bit, right? Where were we? We talked about analytics stack. We talked about how analytics stack evolved over time, you know, to lake houses and to the next generation of lake houses, which can support in product analytics like LinkedIn and conversational analytics like every other company is trying to do. That is the first part of our presentation. The second part of presentation, we gave a rough introduction of what does building AI agents mean, how is it different from traditional SaaS. Now we should try these two things together. Imagine building a simple conversational platform which is directly interacting with your high concurrency analytics system, so that you'll start getting the benefit. What I've done is I've written a simple software which can interact with analytics system in a conversational way. So if you see, I've created a database in Azure Databricks. And to make sure that this demo is interesting, what I've done is I've created a SQL warehouse in Databricks, which can support a reasonable amount of concurrency. And I've created a database which with 100 million rows. So naturally, 100 million rows is a lot, and you expect the queries to take a lot of time, right? And we are storing clickstream data in this database, meaning who visited the website, what is their cookie, what is their data, what did they do, how long did they stay, etc. Right? I wrote a simple piece of code. I mean, it's not simple, it's complex, but LangGraph made it easy, the change that we talked about, and built a conversational platform, right? You can think of this platform as a chat GPT like UI within your product, and people can simply start asking questions, right? As you can see, in 2023, there was no data. In 2024, look at the kind of question I was able to ask. How many people visited customer 4 website in 2024. It was able to cleanly tell you that 11 million people were visited the site in 2024. And now let's make things a little more complex, right? For engineering jobs, how many people visited? You can see it gave you a different number, a slightly smaller number, because we have restricted the search space to engineering. And same thing, right? How can we make this query complex? I wanted to have a distribution by country. If you can see, this is a very complex query and it is mining 100 million rows, and you can see the amount it kind of responded in 0.97 seconds. So this is where I conclude my demo. I wanted to show what advancements are being made in analytics world, how is conversational analytics shaping up, and how are people trying to tie things together. I felt this is going to be a different topic because generally people don't think about it in this way. And I felt this would be a good introduction of agentic architecture and how people can think of building your own, conversational stack. And with this, I conclude my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Suresh. That was an excellent presentation. I think we cleared most of the questions that could have been asked. Still, we have one question, I think, which is the next step in terms of your presentation and what you cleared in terms of the tech required, the steps required to create the right flow of information. There's a question from Catherine. She's asking, how can we move from reactive to proactive conversational analytics? What do we need for it? It's a very broad question, but yeah, relevant question.
Yeah, I'll try to take a stab at answering this, right? So what we have demonstrated is a human asking questions. I think the question is, instead of a human asking, can the system itself tell you the problems, or can, like, this is the next thing you should be doing, this is the next thing you should be doing? Yes, the technology stack for achieving that is the same thing, right? Instead of human typing these questions, there will be a different agent in your system who is interacting with this conversational agent, asking these questions and getting a guided summary of suggestions slash next steps this end user should be doing. And when the end user logs in, it will be readily available in the platform for you. For example, we are doing something very similar, right? We don't expect people to be live all the time and asking questions. So we find out answers for what to be done next using a conversational slash agentic way, and we tell customers what to do next.
I think that answers the question in terms of being proactive. So, is it safe to say that the future of conversational analytics and agentic AI is more human-like?
I mean, that is true. In one way, it will assist the human to become productive. That is one angle. The other angle is you don't have to think about all the workflows beforehand. The agent, which is also a virtual entity in your software world, it will look at the systems, it will learn, it will adapt, and it will, come up with insights. That's the way to think about it.
Right. I think that's clear. One question that I had in my mind in terms of it was very specific to agentic AI. Now it's a buzzword that everybody is talking about, and everybody wants to be part of this wave that's coming in really fast. What is your one, or say, let's not keep it to one. Let's give them three top answers or solutions or suggestions that they can implement right away and join the wave.
So I think the easiest thing people start off is with, internal documentation. Within the company, there's a sprawl of documentation, whether it is your compliance pages, wiki pages, this, right? It is not very meaningful in this world to search for information in a traditional way. So any company that you can see, there's ton of wiki pages within the company. You want something, people will send you a magical link of read this wiki, right? And people can't find it. I mean, trust me when I say this. At our scale, we are not able to find relevant documents within the company for new joiners or new people without context. So the first thing I would encourage all of you guys is to build an internal conversational platform which kind of indexes all the internal data within an organization, and encourage people to just type in questions, and the question should not only give you a brief summary of what you really want, but at the same time it can also share links of this articles using which it's summarized. I mean, there's enough technology in this world where you can build all of this in a month.
That says a lot. I mean, evolution of technology from pre-COVID to now. There was a time when before COVID, everybody was like, we still have a lot of time to build technology and build use cases. And the moment everybody was sitting at home, technology became the go-to source. And now things have evolved in the last 3-4 years so much that the next step is all about using the technology in the best possible way to make our processes simpler, our customer experience better, and our business is profitable. So with that note, I think my attendees, our listeners will agree that your presentation has highlighted some very key aspects of digital transformation as a topic, and this will be a learning experience. Through this medium, I would like to share that please join our LinkedIn, comment our post, and share any question you may have. Suresh will be more than happy to answer those questions. Thank you so much for your time today, Suresh. It was enlightening. We look forward to working with you again. And for attendees, we will end this webinar now. And please rejoin with the same link in next 10 minutes for the next session, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, Suresh.